Luke Rudkowski of WeAreChange.org, and I am here with Amir Taaki, the top 30 entrepreneur on Forbes list magazine. He is a programmer, an open sourcer, a man of many different amazing projects that give you free software that you could play with and then not complain because unlike Microsoft, unlike Adobe, unlike all these other horrible applications that make you pay for the thing. It is all open source. He is the open source man. And Amir, you worked on a lot of different projects. Which one? I know you're working on Darkmail now with Cody
Dark
Wilson.
Wallet.
Yeah, sorry, Dark Wallet. But throughout your life of creating different things and providing platforms that are open to the people, which one sticks out to you the most?
Um, I used to work with video games because video games are really cool. It's a very good way to communicate to the kids, and so we were making tools to allow artists and game developers and programmers and different people to be able to collaborate on games. So we were working a lot with game engines, but that was years ago.
Is there like one specific project that speaks to you the most?
No, is more like a continuing thing we did over many
Yeah.
years, different research.
For the people who don't know technology out there, can you explain to the people out there what do you basically do?
Um, I I write software which I write software that other people can take, and when they use that software they own the technology. That it's technology that is not proprietary. The technology that a lot of the technology we use in our lives is hidden from us. We don't know how it operates. The user is a customer that has no responsibility. They have no inclusion into that part of the development process. But the free software is different. When you give the free software to someone, you are responsible for that software, and it is a community that develops that software. User, developer are connected together.
And then it's open source, so people could look at it, tweak it, make it better, make it different. And you were talking about a different code that you could actually put in there that makes sure that when people tweak it or do something, that the code is always going to come out there. Can you talk about more about that?
Uh, well, there's a free software license, which is a hack of copyright, which we usually call copyleft. And this license says that anybody that makes changes to the software, when they redistribute the software, they have to redistribute the changes. They have to redistribute the source code, because when you write a program you write source code, and that source code gets compiled into a program. And the only way that you can have access to that technology to make modifications, to see how it works, to see that there's no backdoors, or that the
Yep.
software is not acting maliciously, that it's acting as it is intended to be, is to have the source code.
Yeah.
And the GPL says that when you distribute the software, if the software is licensed under the GPL, then you also have to give that source code as well with the modifications. And so it
Yeah.
enforces the freedom of that software.
Exactly, and then more people could build on it. People see exactly what's happening within your computer because all the code that's written to make that program run is all visible. So unlike Windows that has a secret backdoor and Mac and iPhones and all these other codes that are kept secret that track every single little last thing you do, open source prevents that from happening because you, the user, not only get to see what's happening behind the scenes, but you get to participate in it and build it and make it better as it goes along, which is really important, which is where the internet's heading. But there's still a lot of corporate giant buttholes who are holding on to important code and important programs and important software. But there's a lot of people also abusing the fact that they're closing off the source, they're closing off the code with programs that you're running on your computer, and they do malicious things. Is there one major corporation or one major incident or maybe one kind of code that really affected you the most that you really think is the most outlandish thing done by a person or corporation?
Yeah, Apple, because Apple builds closed gardens and vendor lock-in. A lot of the products they build is in such a way that it doesn't interrupt with other software. The most easiest example is an iPhone. The power connector is not compatible with other phones.
No.
If you buy an iPhone, you need the Apple power connector,
No.
and that power connector is only made by Apple, and you can't use it with other phones. The file system, the file formats, the software, uh, a lot of things about this ecosystem is locked down and is centralized in the repositories
Yeah.
or silos of Apple, and this is something that's restricting user freedom. When you use an Apple, even though it might gain you convenience, you are losing your freedom as a user.
Yeah. Now, I know you talk about a lot of kind of external things other than code, and just with you staying with me for a couple of days, you could see your lifestyle of open sourcing and open coding and being kind of free is kind of evident in the way you live your life. Can you talk about how you kind of live your life? Because I find it very intriguing, and how you view what's happening today in this world.
Um, I really believe that the trajectory that we're on is not something that can sustain
Yeah.
with the massive amounts of destruction of the ecology that we're replacing diverse ecosystems with monocultures. The only kind of life that can sustain is life that lives off humans, like parasites, pests, diseases. That we
Politicians.
Politicians, our food sources are under threat. The increasingly we need to put more and more chemicals into the soil to be able to sustain, to keep growing the crops, and that we and also a lot of the diseases of the modern world, which are chronic diseases, things that don't exist in the developing world, which is a consequence of our industrialization, of our lifestyles, of our air is no longer clean, with the burgeoning power of the nation states, where the bureaucracy is getting so massive and so creeping into everybody's lives. With the Snowden revelations, that we see the huge scale of the surveillance, where they're flying drones over entire neighborhoods to monitor people, and this is not targeted surveillance. This is dragnet surveillance. So who really is the enemy? And also with the every single power that we give to the police, new tools that they can use against the people to enforce their view of morality, and new laws and legislations, ability to stop and search people, fueled by fear and by it's basically we're coming towards a police state, and also with the economy as well, that where the increasingly, like, people are working longer hours for less pay, and doing crappier jobs for bosses they don't like,
And
and
having
doing
to
things.
pay more for less things.
And having to pay more. The living standards is going up, and for what? For a box in the city. And this is not the way to live. We are in a time of high technology and high science, yet we have less leisure time. We have less time to spend with our kids. Our lifestyles are not objectively better. There is something seriously wrong with how we have engineered society. And so that is why I work with communities in Europe. We try to find ways. We try to find ways that we can organize together. That we don't need to seek approval from a higher power, from a central party that that is responsible for allocating and managing our lives, because we believe we can do it better ourselves, and we can serve our needs better when we do it between ourselves. At the end of the day, if you're going to go to some mafia and you're going to ask that mafia, like, to be responsible for your life, they're always going to look after themselves and their friends and their people first, and then the people around that after.
Is there any project that sticks out to you that excites you the most? Because I know you've been kind of going all over the place, working on a lot of different exciting projects. You see where kind of the freedom of the internet is kind of going. Is there any particular project that excites you the most?
Yeah, the CIC in Catalonia, the Catalan Integral Cooperative. And what they want to do is they are basically like a startup government, and they want to provide all the basic services that the human need, like the food, the transport, the healthcare, the spaces, the energy. And it's a network of small producers around that's using the legal structure of a cooperative to protect inside, and they have an internal economy, and they use all these different money laundering tools to protect the people inside, and they have their own economy, and it's one of the projects that's producing real results. Wow. And for instance, there was a guy with a market stall, and he was telling me that normally he has to pay 300 euros every month, but by using the cooperative, and they balance the money coming in and out, he doesn't have to pay this tax. So it's providing real tangible benefits to people that use it. And instead to go through a legal system with lawyers and judges and police and bureaucrats and politicians and legislators, now we can use mathematical law, and we can disintermediate a huge body of institutions,
of power and greed,
of power, to create pure law between people governed by ourselves. Consented.
Now, with the internet expanding and technology expanding so much, I really like that phrase that this is the biggest experiment of anarchy that there ever was before throughout history, because it is like that. But you see a dueling kind of sword. You see a dueling kind of battle between the good and evil. Even on the internet, it is a tool that has opened up so many eyes. It is a tool that has helped people and freed people and informed people and empowered people. But at the same time, it also is a tool that enslaves people. And it's a tool that the United States government and all the governments around the world, but mainly right now the NSA, they're using to virtually know every little single last detail about us and implement their governments against us. The NSA here has used private information against us and gave it to the DAA, to local police departments, to the IRS, to just spying on businesses so they could find out what foreign governments and businesses are doing, so they could get the next edge with their corporate buddies. You see that happening. You see this big fight. You got the light side and the dark side happening on the internet right now. It's very unstable. I don't know where it's going. Where do you think it's going?
You mean with the internet, where it's going?
Where's the future of the internet? Are we going to go towards a controlled internet? Are we going to go towards a free internet? It seems like it's at a major crossroads right now. It could either go really badly or really good. As far as free flow of information, because you see it used dually now. Where do you see the future of technology?
It can go either way. The internet can liberate us, or it can be the tool that destroys us. And at the end of the day, it comes down to our choices as people. The tools are out there, and yet people continue to use Macs, to use Windows, to use Google, to consent to these tools that is compromised and working against their users. Put your money or your action where it benefits you. Start to use Linux or investigate open source alternatives. Take your money from the banks and invest it in Bitcoin. Our money, where we put our money is every time we give our money to these corporations who are complicit with nation states in working against the people of the country. We are empowering them. If we have the power ourselves, and this corruption around us, it comes from ourselves. It's very tempting sometimes to point the finger at that corrupt politician or that evil organization. But at the end of the day, they derive our power from our action or our inaction. If the people is disobedient and the people decides to stand up and say, we are sovereign and this is the way that we are doing the things, then they lose their power, and it's not so difficult. Sometimes in our life we go along and we have our dreams about how we want to do the things, and and we start to worry about how how we can do the things, and we start to slip into complacency, and that is how the system has been able to hijack us with false promises of security and stability, with the ideals of comfort, with by satiating our with us with needs, with wants that we don't actually need. That maybe there is more to life than the amount of GDP of the citizens, or the amount of money in your bank account. That there's things like love, or culture, or or or
Community.
or,
Yeah.
or yeah, anything. There's a lot more thing. We have to start to think like, what are the real values, human values, that we want to promote? And if we continue to keep doing things the same way, then nothing will change, and to be honest, if we keep on our current trajectory, the things is going to get a whole lot worse.
Yeah.
And right now, my goal is not to rescue the world. My goal is to create a safe operating space where freedom loving people can survive and thrive, because I don't see much future in the current way that we have engineered our societies.
It's very difficult because it still hangs in the balance, but it's still overwhelming a lot of times when you look at everything that we're facing and everything that we're going up against. But then again, if it wasn't that big and that monstrous, it wouldn't be worthwhile of a fight, and that much of a great fight that it is already. And I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying being able to participate in showing people that there's other ways and alternatives. And ultimately, it does lie within the individual. It doesn't lie just between a country or a leader or one person telling anybody what to do. Just like the internet, the amazing world of just throwing everything out there at once. It's not just one person. It's always ideas that really kind of just take everything over and really change things, even throughout history. But now that idea could just go all around the world within 1 megabyte of a second, or whatever it is. But you know, going back to the idea premise, now you're working on really interesting project with Cody Wilson, the dark wallet. What's the idea behind the dark wallet?
It starts with we've started with a very simple premise. Maybe we have lofty goals for the future, but right now we just want a Bitcoin wallet where people can have their Bitcoins and their privacy, and be able to transact with someone, anonymously. There's a big misconception around Bitcoin, or a big misframing, where people try to slant Bitcoin as not being really anonymous, and this is part of an agenda, and that agenda is to try and remove some of the more revolutionary aspects of Bitcoin for undermining power structures. They also say that Bitcoin is not a currency. They call it a payments innovation, as a way of downplaying Bitcoin, and promoting it more as something to cover the cracks of the current financial system, to reform the corruption of the banks, to make it a more efficient experience for the consumer. But all of this misses the fundamental point that Bitcoin is more than just a cheaper or better payments mechanism. It isn't even a better payments mechanism. Bitcoin is more than that. Bitcoin is a new tool of trade and business, and the blockchain is a new innovation in crypto that goes way beyond finance. And there are things that we can use to apply this new technology in the domains of resource management, of digital governance, of communications, of the tools that we can use as people to reclaim our sovereignty. And the dark wallet is the first step in this investigation, because these are the tools that we need in our communities. And we also think that these tools are useful for everybody else as well.
Now, doing this, obviously, you're anonymizing Bitcoin transactions. You're making them secret so other people can't see it out there. You must get a lot of flack from one, regulators, two, Bitcoin people who want to make sure that Bitcoin goes mainstream with the whole Wall Street thing as well, and then also government officials. What kind of heat are you getting? Because I know there's many different layers of people who are against this idea. But where's the hottest fire you think going against what you guys are doing?
Uh, I saw one thing where Booz Allen Hamilton, which was the employer of Edward Snowden, were showing the video to the regulators of the dark wallet as a scare tactic. There's a there's a JP Morgan piece called The Audacity of Bitcoin, in which it says that Bitcoin imposes financial discipline on governments, consumers, and corporations. You
Wow.
know, and and but 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 apart from that, the Bitcoin community is mostly, I think a lot of the people there's in the beginning, well, when people first come into Bitcoin, it's such a deep topic, so it's sometimes difficult to grasp, and also there's a lot of like liberals and stuff that they perceive Bitcoin as something that can play into the current order of things, and but then like once you gain a deeper perspective of Bitcoin and what it's truly capable of, there's an evolution of consciousness. And in some ways, we're seeing this happen in the Bitcoin community, that people is a lot more receptive to our work nowadays, whereas before they weren't so much. And people is gaining a lot of recognition about the value of these tools. Also, when you actually place these tools in the hands of people, it's different to when you're talking about them, because people can actually see and use these things. And we can make like some bigger philosophical reasoning for like why we make these tools, but in the end of the day, the way forwards, the way that I try to develop the tools, is by thinking about the real use cases, the real needs of the market. And Silk Road was shut down. We need alternatives to the Silk Road that can't be censored. We need the ability for people to be able to transact, to be able to do black market trade, and people need to be equipped with these tools to protect themselves. And that's a real need.
Yeah.
And if you satisfy that need, then you go on from there and you see, okay, how do we expand this into more and more domains?
Yeah. What do you say to critiques of people who say that things like, the what was that market again called?
Silk Road.
Silk Road. Yeah, sorry, I can't believe I blanked out. What do you think about people who say that things like the Silk Road actually hurt Bitcoin more because they scared away a lot of different people from investing in it and being a part of it and gave it this kind of mysterious dark look? What do you say to those people?
Bitcoin is not a company like Twitter or Facebook. Bitcoin is a fundamental technology like the printing press or the internet, and Bitcoin will succeed. It's an idea so powerful that can't be stopped. Despite it could be 10 years, it could be 20 years, however long. Despite opposition, it will succeed. And trying to compromise on our integrity or our values in order to win some short-term favor, to allow, maybe to allow, businesses or corporations that specialize in the transfer of failing government fiat currency to cryptocurrency is ludicrous. It's not the and people seem to forget that Bitcoin is a consensus of all of the people inside it, and Bitcoin has and can change. Satoshi gave us this gift, encoded with his values and his principles, and it's our responsibility to uphold his values and uphold the integrity of the Bitcoin system, because Bitcoin can change. And I'm not talking about changing there's 21 million Bitcoins or some rule of the network. No, I'm talking about the operation of the software. There are many decisions deep down in the software that many people can't, that only a handful of people worldwide can perceive, the true ramifications of it. Sometimes, and it's not enough that the software is open source. It's like there's many things that is deep down and requires a lot of experience. Like for instance, this sidechain stuff that's recently come out, and a lot of people is getting excited about. Even a lot of technical people, don't understand the real social and political implications of these changes. It's lucky that we have someone like Peter Todd, who is able to perceive these things on a deep level, and that Peter Todd is working in the interests of Bitcoin users, unlike Mike Hearn, who is working against the users of Bitcoin, who is collaborating with Dutch police, about how to catch Silk Road users, and was brainstorming how to develop blacklisting technologies, and faced with a hard decision between A or B, and it's not clear which is better. If the development community is paid for by Bitcoin corporations, and you have choice A, which slightly benefits small businesses, peer-to-peer transfers and the black market, and choice B, which favors consumers and Bitcoin corporations, and you decide to take choice B, and then next time, you have the same sorts of decisions. Slowly, Bitcoin can evolve into something very different from what we appreciate about it. It can evolve into a corp coin or a gov coin, and it's not going to be that governments are going to come to Bitcoin and demand that a backdoor suddenly in some big event gets placed in there. No, it's going to be many small decisions. They say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And this is the real thing that we have to do. And that as a community, we need developers, we need people that represent the voice of the black market within the Bitcoin community, and are forcing this issue. Because and even just thinking about where we as developers invest our time and energies, that people is like on, just like the internet, that there's bodies of developers who's building technologies to blacklist people, to triangulate their location, to censor people, to surveil people, to limit their freedom, to put certificate authorities into Bitcoin, which has happened already, by the way. Versus, people are investing their time into developing privacy technologies for people to allow them to transact more freely in an open market, for people to have technologies to get around censorship, to increase people's freedom. Where are we going to put our resources? And what kind of market or an ecosystem do we want to create? A Bitcoin ecosystem, which is surrounded by proprietary tools, is not a free Bitcoin. We need an open and diverse ecosystem of multiple different Bitcoin software, with many different competing groups, all with representing different voices of the community.
So it seems like the internet, just like Bitcoin, has two sides to it. What do you say to people who say that your side is the wrong side because it promotes, the whole mainstream whole mainstream argument that it promotes violence and drug use and people will get hurt? What do you say to the mainstream Americans out there who don't understand these concepts, who don't really even understand how corrupt the system is, how controlling it is, and how many different facet sides of manipulation there is? What do you say to the people out there who say that your side is wrong because supposedly it's, quote, ethically wrong?
So there are these two sides in the Bitcoin. One is the side of the legitimate consumer market, and just from my experience, I'm a bad guy, so they've tried to censor me. They've tried to push me out of development regardless of my technical skills, and because I don't project the right image of what a Bitcoin developer is, that Bitcoin should be developed in professional halls, with people wearing tie and shirt, working in established legitimate companies. Their values is ones of hierarchy, of censorship, of closed, spaces. My values are values of creativity, of openness, of equality. Which is the better values?
Yeah.
I'm telling people that I'm going to equip you with the tools that give you the responsibility for your action to decide to do what you want with your life.
Yeah.
And I don't see how that is wrong.
Yeah. I would just say, just like with cash, you could do anything you want with it. But now with bitcoins, if the government puts their hands on it and there's regulations and there's all those eyes and you could see virtually everything that's done, there could be so much abuse for that. Just like with what's happening now with the NSA scandal, which proves we just talked to an NSA official recently that said it's not about fighting terrorism, it's about power, it's about control. We give a little bit of power to somebody, and they always end up taking a lot more than we ever expected. We gave up a pinky, and now you know, all we have is an elbow sometimes. And it's a very weird dynamic situation. I definitely appreciate the open sourcing, the open coding. I think software and technologies like that are extremely important. I mean, life. Where you have to pay for virtually everything and be watched over virtually everything is not really life at all. It's just being in a cage. And I'm happy there's people like you who want to rattle the cage and get out of there as well. Uh, but other than that, anything else you want to say? Where can people find you? And anything else you want to get out there to everyone?
Yeah, sometimes, you go through life and, the universe is so massive that we are on a speck of dust in the corner of a humdrum galaxy and with hundreds of billions of other galaxies in a uncaring universe. And the sometimes that we look, for somebody who is able to care for us and be responsible for our lives, that can watch over us in case of disaster, and forgive us when we make stupid mistakes. But the reality is that we are the ones that are responsible for our lives, and and that we are the ones that have to take charge, and we have to develop our own ethical system, our own way that we can live together as people and be free. That's yeah, that's
And not hurt any of us. But right now,
no
well,
no
yeah.
no masters, no slaves, no babysitters.
And the way it is right now, if you're doing all that, you're a rebel. So, thank you so much, Amir. Really appreciate it. The world needs more rebels.